They had the space jockey in front.
I understand somebody tried to set fire to it or something, because they thought it was the work of the devil. Great.
By then, we had already had, the night before, I'd been to the Academy, and that's a tougher audience because they're filmmakers, and it takes a lot to impress them. But that went so amazingly. Sitting behind me was Jack Nicholson and Warren Beatty, and they kept screaming like two little boys at every scare. And they came up to Dan and I later and said, "Oh, it's amazing, guys." And Dan, "My God, it's Warren Beatty and Jack Nicholson." You know, and they scared the shit out of us. So we were just beaming, and that's a tougher audience.
It was so new in its concept of horror. I think it was more of a thriller because apart from those the odd horrid moments that things happen, it was a thriller. When's it going to happen next?
My reaction was right with them. It was a wave. We were like a tidal wave building up and crashing on the shore with apprehension. I do remember a story that Ridley told me about meeting with some theater owners after the picture had been released, and this one guy came up to me and says, "I tell you, you know that one scene where that thing comes out of the stomach, I tell you, it really messed up our bathrooms, and I take a great deal of pride in our bathrooms, but we took care of that. Ridley says, "Well, how did you take care of that?" He said, "Oh, we just cut it out of the picture, and bathrooms were fine after that."
I've often wondered in Alien how many eyes closed at the moment that I gave birth, as I like to put it. But, and I'm sure that it's over 50% in the first time of seeing it. And I'm sure that some people took 4 times before they actually saw it.
Women of a certain age, probably childbearing and upwards age, or certainly women in their 30s and 40s for some extraordinary psychological reason, were very, very put off by the chest burster, by the birth scene. I think they found it, you know, deeply Freudianly disturbing. And I think that stopped it actually being an even bigger hit.
The chest bursting scene certainly worked, and you'd just hear this dead silence from the audience. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, you know. I then realized, you know, how effective it was on an audience, you know, and people won't, you know, have heard so much about it, they won't even see it. They're terrified to see it, and people who have seen it regret it, you know, and others just can't get enough.
They were so terrified. I mean, even I was terrified because they'd added, it has the most amazing sound. And between the water and the steam and the smoke and our performances and the music, you're terrified the entire time. I think I watched it through my cable net sweater. It's like that. Because once you added all that, I wasn't Ripley, you know, who doesn't get it.
I was terrified. I can't remember the audience reaction because I can only remember my own. And I screamed, and I was absolutely, and I knew, of course I knew the script. I knew that the creature was going to burst forth, but it made no difference. I was petrified.
People were so into it. It was the first time we'd shown space to be a real place, you know, filthy, greasy, grimy, with real people in it. You know, it was certainly the opposite of 2001, which is a movie I've always found it hard to sit through, frankly, because it's so sterile and still. And this was, you know, and it was, I have to say, so much of Ridley in it, his no bullshit kind of approach.
Exciting opening. It broke all the house records. It was a very good ad campaign, I thought, simple but creepy at the same time. I think the team of Fox, people of Fox at that point in time, none of which are there anymore, really got behind the picture and sold it as hard as they could and believed in it very strongly.
The graphics we brought in were 2 great guys. There was Steve Frankfurt, who was, you know, pretty formidable advertising man, and Richard Greenberg, who came in with, first of all, coming into poster work, and then they came up with a great log line, you know, in space no one can hear you scream. And then the typography, wide space to the top, I thought looked great. And then they readapted that to go on the film as the opening title sequence, which was a kind of form of hieroglyphics, really, or a readout. You know what it is. And then it gradually spells Alien.
Alien fulfilled a genre and thereby put a cap on it.
Alien to me is very special, and it's not just because I worked on it. I think Ridley did such an amazing job on it, and I think it's got a mythology to it.
Until they start making feature movies in IMAX or in virtual reality, I don't think it's going to be possible to do anything that's that novel in the scary sci-fi monster vein.
The thing that made Alien scary was the fact that you weren't quite sure what you were seeing, so the audience could participate.
It was quite a milestone. It was sort of like Howard Hawks' The Thing, which was the first film I can remember where they used a science fiction element as an element of horror to really frighten you, and this was the next ultimate step.
The alien is frightening in a context much larger than outer space science fiction beings. It's fearsome in the way a child's nightmare is frightening.
It's becoming more difficult to just frighten people. Frighten people on a nice level, on an entertaining level, on a roller coaster ride. I think it's really why I've never done another science fiction. Between Blade Runner and this, I thought I hit space in the urban side of the world and sci-fi. And so, in a funny kind of way, it's good because I'll only do another science fiction if I've got a really good script. So really, finally, it's about the story. It's all about the story. The trappings, the dressing is not insignificant. It's important, and it's an art form in itself, but it's not the priority.
Ridley's Alien is actually of a different genre from the other aliens, I think. How can one put it? It's a sort of realistic approach, as I say, a logical approach using a thriller format, which I think was terrifically successful. And I think you can follow the whole possibility of that, particularly as the more and more we know about our universe and so on, the more possible it becomes all the time. So it's not going to get unfashionable. The other aliens I would put into a different genre. I would say that they were more action-adventure films.
It's one of the great franchises that we have in today's cinema, and I think it would be not very hard and not very difficult to turn it back into where it came from. I would go back to the roots of where the first one was, which is the scary monster in the dark. That is it going to jump out on you? Is it going to get you?
I would have gone before, because that's what I find interesting. I want to know who that space jockey is. Well, you know, what are the aliens doing in the silo? Are they armaments? Are they shipping them somewhere? All that. And I think that, for me, is fascinating.
I mean, that's what we're meant to do. You can, end it and bash it on the head and bury it, but I think you can just as easily invent the end of one and the beginning of another.